Back to the show. That is the sound of Mr. A is back in the house. This is Double RT Boxing doing a post-fight recap for the WBO International Intercontinental, I should say, champion defeating challenger Sosha Hiyashi. That is Mark Magsayo, the champion. Now, straight off the back, this fight has a lot of interesting elements to it. You got to see uh, flaws in both fighters. You got to see what both fighters excel at. Um, to me, I got to see one of the best minutes of boxing I could release recently remember. The way I break down fights, I go minute by minute per round. You know, and within that minute, I judge everything: back foot fight and movement, counters, pressure, hard hits, controlling jabs, who controlling pace. I break it, whoever's doing it minute by minute, and then you got two of the minutes, you got one of the minute, you win the round. And like I said, to me, the best minute of a long time is the last minute of round 11. We'll get into that. Excellent, excellent minute of fighting, boxing, I should say. Excellent minute of boxing. You had just about everything, back and forth. You had back for fighting. You had body shots. You had will. You had courage. Uh, Toe to toe, no surrender. You had it all going within that final minute. Now, what I will say, obviously, the big, as what's the saying, the elephant in the room, Mark's stamina. He ran out of gas. I actually thought it would be the opposite when I made the prediction. I thought Mark will, for the first half, kind of came true. He kind of maybe underestimated Shota a little bit. Didn't think Shota could handle his power. And in the second half of the fight, it became a tough fight. But I thought Mark would have the gas and finish Shota off, but he wasn't able to tire Shota out at all. The only reason Shota became tired was, well, he did tire him out a little bit with the body shots towards the end, but I think towards the end, Shota was just kind of punching himself out, just trying to get back into the fight, trying to take advantage. Now, Mark is very lucky Shota is not a body hunter, because all he was doing was throwing a lot of head hunting shots when Mark was tired and ready to go. A well balanced fighter would have got Mark out like in the 10th and 11th round, definitely the 12th, because Mark was gassed. He wasn't zero gas, but he was ready for a nice uh, seven punch combo to stop him. Like for instance, who mixes punches well up and down when they're a finisher. I know he's an elite fighter, but Lomachenko, he goes up and down when how he mixes punches up, and that's usually how he's able to uh, break people's will. It's up and down. They don't know what to block. Towards the end, when Mark was gassed, he only knew he really had to block upstairs, just back away and block upstairs, because that's all Shota was hunting for. Now, going into the fight itself, I had, unless my math is really wrong here, I kept trying to do it, but I had it 7-5 rounds. I had a one. I keep coming up with 116, 113, but all the judges had it 116, 112. I don't know how I'm messing up my math here, but I had Mark winning rounds 1, 2, 4, 6, 9, and 11. Obviously, Shota had all the other rounds. Now, I felt round 1 and 2, they were just nice jabs. Mark was going to the body. He has a tremendous left hook. I love the way he doubles up on the hook. He had to go upstairs, then downstairs with a double hook. What he should do more often is double in with a jab and then start his combinations. He always starts his combinations from out here. So by the time he gets in here, it's they're lunging, they're far. But he needs to jab in, get here, and then start his combinations. And round three, you could see the pressure was starting to get to Mark. He was starting to get, he was starting to walk a little backwards more, allowing Shota to come forward without trying to counter him. He was more of a, see, I was giving moments to Shota during that, like, Mark was, like, there's a difference between using the ring, walking backwards, and then setting up offense or walking backwards to set up some counter shots. Mark wasn't doing any of that. He was just going backwards to survive, get some air. So I don't see that as any defensive strategy. I see that as Shota controlling the pace of the fight. And so that's just an example of how a little element where I judge um, fights on. So I was judging Mark moving backwards without trying to counter, without any offensive strategy with his movement of backwards, against Shota's, 1-2 touching punches. All those points against occasionally, once in a while, Mark will throw a flurry up, but it gets blocked and maybe one hard punch will land. So do you give Mark that round for that one hard punch or the two hard punches, whatever Mark throws? Do you give that points, or do you score the points for Shota scoring a lot of tapping points, controlling the pace points, the aggression? So it's a lot of elements in this fight. To me, this fight, I hope it don't come off the wrong way, but it was like the Asian version of Sean Porter and Keith Thurman. It was back and forth action. You could say this person won, you could say that person won. It's a highly contested fight. Really, really good fight, but this was definitely a good fight. And then, like I said, it was going back and forth the whole fight. And then I say like I said, for round five, you start seeing the gas that's Mark emptying out, and it was always just the same thing: a bunch of jabs from Shota with occasional rights and a short right hook. Versus when was Mark gonna just, because Mark has a jab, but he was using it as a keep the gap, and then he started really using it as a stay away from you jab. When he was sitting in the first 3 rounds, like pumping it out, actually using it as a jab, it's good. I just wish he needs to have more snap on it. Use it as more of a weapon jab instead of a control time, control gap jab. Now, as he stopped using that jab and just relied on his heavy combinations to keep Shota off him, that's when the fight really took a turn. I say that's around round 6. Shota was able to just kind of almost to just walk in on Mark without the jab. And yeah, Mark was able to land occasionally his devastating double up left to the head, to the body, and he'll come with an uppercut, or he'll do something with the right hand. But that left doubling up hook saved Mark's cheeks a lot. Now, up into the 9th round, you started to see like, oh, Shota might really pull this off. He's pulling off this upset, because I had round 4 for Mark, 5 for Shota, 6, 7. Yeah, 5 for Shota, 6, 7 for Mark, 8 for Shota. So going into round 9, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 5 to 3. Then 5 to 3. Okay, Shota's making a nice little stir here, and then round 9, back and forth action. Shota was he was bringing up the aggression, but Mark was still able to keep him off with the hooks. And then in like the last 15 seconds, he gave Shota a nice, I think it was a left hook to the body. Because at the first minute, I had Shota winning. The second minute, I had Mark walking backwards, not really doing much, but he was still able to keep Shota off. But Shota was just walking him down here. At a weak moment, he let it go. He didn't attack him enough, but he got a left hook to the body. Mark did on Shota in the last like 10-15 seconds, and you literally, for the first time, you see an effect on a punch, as they say Keith Thurman did against Luis Gallardo. When he drops like that, and like the body shot, you see you see Shota like take one, and the bell rings. So that was the premier a good turning point. But still, the next round, round 10, Mark won the first minute because he came out just with a quick flurry of body work. Some of it was partially landed, some of it was blocked, but he came out with it. And then the second minute and third, Shota just won it, just walking him down with tapping jabs. The 11th round was a back and forth the first 2 minutes, and then the last minute, which I said was the minute of the last one I could really recall in a long time. Back and forth, jabbing, hooking for hooking, just standing shoulder to shoulder, leaning, and just punching each other back and forth. Like the whole, like almost 45 seconds of the minute, Shota was just throwing punches right. So like I said, Mark is lucky during that minute Shota was not a body hunter, because he was just throwing rights and left back and forth, but always hitting Mark in the head, just tapping, just getting a lot of frustration points, and they were hitting Mark, but Mark was able to save himself with like two hard hooks, or one good uppercut, and then another left hook. So like four good punches against like 45 seconds of just points of Shota. But I gave those four hard punches to Mark for the round, because you could clearly see like they were like fight changing punches, not just hard punches. And in the last round, I gave to Shota because he just clearly walked Mark all around the ring. The last part of the last round, Mark was just sitting there holding. Mark kind of melded in. You know, he was gassed out, but like I said, I had it 7 rounds to 5. Rounds 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 9, and 11 were for Mark. The rest for Shota. Good fight, but like I said, it's part stamina thing. But also, I think it's a lot to do with his team. Some people leaving comments saying that he left ALA. Maybe that's the camp, his promotion company. They're not financially him with strong sparring partners, or maybe they're just a bunch of yes men not getting him on the right track. But to me, Mark, like I said, he doesn't stay behind the jab, and he doesn't throw up setup punches. It's either a fill out jab or all out or nothing, and his energy is zapped. Because if he can mix in some of that combination, slow it down with some setup punches, I think he's got a decent jab, and with his right hand, it's a nice 1-2. But he doesn't know how to either mix up his ranges. It's either close enough for a double hook to the body, or out here and I'm throwing just hard. He needs to find that mid-range game where he could set himself up for the for a combination, instead of just here I am going for combinations, if that makes sense. But this is a quick recap. Mark Magsayo defeats Shota Hayasha, retains his WBO Intercontinental title. He is number 2 in the WBO. So with number 1, Jojo Diaz, being mandated by the WBC to fight Gary Russell Jr., Mark Magsayo might jump into that title shot with Oscar Valdez. We'll see what happens. This is RT Boxing, saying thank you for your time and support. This is great fight. What do you guys, if you do rewatch the fight, what do you think of the last minute of round 11? Give me your opinion on that. Have a good one, guys.